London. Now, meanwhile, more and more politicians, more and more people, if you like, are defecting to Reform UK, joining Reform UK. My next guest is a fairly long-term Tory councillor. She's a lawyer. She's a mother of 7. She's a criminal lawyer. A woman of many talents. She was once called the vigilante mum of London because one of her kids got mugged by some local louts. She tracked them down. She found them and brought them to justice. Amazing woman. Now, she has been for a long time a Tory councillor for Westminster Council, which is like the big London flagship Tory council. She's just defected to Reform UK, and her reason is, she said, she got sick and tired of making excuses for failure. Now, we recorded this earlier. It's a bit jumpy, but she's a lovely lady, you'll get the point, and her name is Laila Cunningham. So a warm welcome to the show to Laila Cunningham.
Welcome to the show, Laila. Well,
thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, just tell us, first of all, why you've decided to make this switch. How long have you been, a member of or connected to the Conservatives? How long have you been a councillor?
I've been a councillor since 2022, and I've been involved with the Conservative Party for over 10 years. I was born a Conservative. My parents made their fortune, small fortune, but, they set up a successful business, bought a home, all under Margaret Thatcher's government. So we were very grateful to the Conservatives. And one of the reasons I stayed on was I harped for that era of Thatcherism, Conservatism, but it's not that anymore. Under the Conservative government, we've had the highest tax burden since World War II, mass immigration, crime is rampant. We have a massive spiralling public debt. And I didn't know what it stood for anymore.
You said that you got tired of making excuses for failure. 14 years of Tory failure. By the way, we've also had now a year of dreadful Labour failure.
Yes.
So let's not leave them out of the equation.
No.
But tell me about what you meant by getting tired about making excuses for failure.
Kevin, I would knock on a door, one of my residents or campaigning across the country, and someone would say, the Conservatives, I'm not going to vote for them. They've done this and that, and they're rubbish. And I would agree. Yeah. And then they go, but if you agree, why are you running? And I couldn't answer. In my ward, I won a lot of votes by being honest and saying I agree that the Conservatives are rubbish, but I represent something different. And I couldn't live a lie anymore. Effectively, politicians are traveling salesmen. And you gotta believe in the product that you're selling. You got to believe in what you're saying, and I didn't. And it's just as simple as that.
Now you also, I know you've got 7 children. You grew up in London.
All my sins. Yeah.
you grew up in London, and you find it now to be a different place, and you're extremely worried about the soaring crime levels. Tell me about that.
I grew up in London. I grew up in Brent, and it wasn't such a nice part of town when I grew up. But yeah, I used to play basketball at a local level, and I played basketball in Brixton and Newham. In those days, those were quite rough parts of town, but there was never that worry from my parents that I'd get mugged or stabbed. Or now I have teenage boys, and I worry about them all the time. They were mugged many times. And in fact, the police told me that they didn't have enough public police resources to allocate to investigating them. And so I had to do it myself. And the local press dubbed me vigilante mum. I had to run after them, follow the muggers, take photos, get intel from the local shops that were selling illegal phones. And I had them banned from the area. But Kevin, I shouldn't have to do that. I had my baby carrier doing that. But, as any mum knows, you'll do anything to keep your children safe. And the police weren't there for me. And that's what I hear from residents.
And did you catch these people when you were the vigilante mum?
Yeah, of course. So I followed them. So they wear very, youth these days like to wear very distinctive trainers. And it was a time where now you can wear a COVID mask or a balaclava and walk around and it's totally normal. And so I took photos of their shoes. And it was very their shoes and their, yeah, I did. And I even followed to which estate they lived in to find out, I gave everything to the police.
So your worries for this country, and of course London as well, are primarily crime, but you're very worried about migration as well. Now you're a Muslim lady, and I believe that you feel that some Muslims are giving the rest of you a bad name. Tell me about that.
I mean, my parents came here in the 60s, and they came with the aim of assimilation. We wanted to be British. We wanted to embrace British values, culture. We love it, or else we wouldn't have come here. And there are pockets of Muslim communities that let Muslims down and tarnish us all. And that makes me very, very angry, because I think that anyone who comes to this country should come with the sole aim of aspiring to be British and aspiring to assimilate as much as possible, because it is the best country in the world and it's the best culture in the world. And if you don't recognize that, then you have no space being here.
Well said, well said. And in terms of the burqa, obviously the discussion right now, as proposed in Parliament by your now fellow party colleague Sarah Poshin, who called for the banning of the burqa. Your stance is that you're against face coverings, which I think is slightly different.
So I'm very happy that Sarah got the discussion going, because since COVID, crime has become really brazen, because youth and criminals just walk around with face coverings, the COVID mask, believe it or not, or balaclavas, and they can commit crimes very easily. In the olden days, if before COVID, if you walked into a supermarket with a balaclava and a plastic bag, that was reason for stop and search, right? And now it's not. And I believe that any face covering could be valid and legal cause for stop and search by the police. I mean, and in terms of government buildings, courtrooms, I don't think the burqa should be allowed. If you go to Saudi Arabia, you cannot wear it in government buildings, because they had real issues with different people sitting exams and tests. And it's madness that we don't implement that here.
I'll tell you what's important, Laila, is this, that Sarah Poshin, when she said that in the House of Commons a couple of weeks ago, she came onto my show that night, actually. But when she said, what do you think about maybe banning the burqa? Well, Keir Starmer just ran away and avoided the question. He said, I'm not going to follow you down that line. And the House fell into a kind of shocked, hushed silence. But I think that something reform can do that would be very good for this country would be to open this issue up for a sensible debate, sensible discussion, because at the moment we're treating it like taboo, that which you may not discuss. We've got to talk about this, haven't we?
Well, that's why I joined Reform, actually, because I don't shy away from any subject. I'm here to do the right thing, and face coverings definitely need a great discussion, and a tribute to Sarah for opening up the discussion. No one was talking about it before. I don't think people should hide under any kind of cloak of disguise. I think we should be able to recognize people. But also, it's the same with the grooming gangs. It was taboo to mention their ethnicity or what country they were from. And look what trouble they had. That we should be able to have a healthy debate about any subjects.
Indeed. Now, let me ask a couple of questions about both the Tories and indeed Labour. Your feelings about Tory migration policies for 14 years. I think they left this country in pretty bad shape in terms of the number of people coming in that we don't know anything about. Also, I want to get your views on the Tories' approach to net zero. My point being, I think the problem with the Tories is that they're little more than Labour light. So while Labour say, oh, we're going to let everybody in, the Tories basically said we're going to let nearly everybody in, while Labour say we're going to go absolutely crazy about net zero. The Tories say, well, we still want net zero, but maybe not as stringently as Labour. We need to make a kind of break from all of that. Is that what attracted you to Reform UK?
Yes, when there was the energy crisis, I looked at my bill and I almost got a heart attack. I spoke to a friend in France who was paying half of what I was paying. And I asked her, I mean, I don't know if you know, I'm sure you do actually. Under Liz Truss, all our energy storage was shut down. And that contributed to our massive energy costs. They actually thought that we wouldn't need energy storage. Look at Germany. They reduced all their nuclear energy and decided to rely on cheap foreign oil from Russia, actually probably funding the Ukraine war in an indirect way. And I tell you, I tried to run for a Conservative MP in Norfolk. And the number one thing I was asked for was to campaign against pylons. right? And you cannot have renewable energy without pylons, because to build underground under the sea is very expensive. So you have the Conservative Party actively campaigning for net zero, but on the other hand, you've got individual MPs who are anti-pylons, the one infrastructure that you need. We have so many providers of renewable energy who are queuing up to get on the grid. It is just not sustainable. We have our own resources. Also, we were the first to shut coal mining down, right? Whereas China and India are ramping it up double, and that's affected our manufacturing industry. And it's not right, because it's taken us a step back. We've cut our hands off, effectively.
Yeah. And were you frustrated by the fact that the Tories are still keyed in to the Green Project? Don't forget, Boris Johnson should have joined the Lib Dem party. I mean, he was a Green fanatic, and there's still the residue of that with the Tories. I mean, they are still for net zero by 2050, and the reason they're for it is that their former Prime Minister, I guess your former Prime Minister, Theresa May, committed that to law. It is the law, thanks to the Tories. Why do you think the Tories have done that?
Because it's never good to be ideologically wedded to something, no matter what. You have to be able to transition when truth comes to light. And perhaps, you know, she saw some research. I don't know why she came to that decision. It's not a decision I would agree with. We always have to rely on ourselves. I believe a country should be self-reliant. We should grow our own food, provide as much energy as possible. And we just haven't done that. And it's madness. I don't know why they've done that.
I know.
I don't know if you saw. I was furious to see that I'm paying over £100 for a green levy. Where does that go?
Well, look, because of the Tories and now Labour, we have the highest energy bills in the entire world. America's energy bills are 5 times cheaper than ours. So would you agree that we should abandon the net zero project and, importantly, start fracking?
I'm not sure about the environmental impact of fracking. I'd have to look into it. But I definitely believe we need to start drilling in the North Sea oil. And also, you know, France is 70% nuclear. We are like 4%. If you really want to go green, you should invest in nuclear reactors. But we haven't even done that. And small modular reactors are easy and fast and cheap to build. I mean, China builds them, I think, in 5 years. I'm not sure. But we're not doing that.
No.
We're all talking, you know, they're all talk and no action. And it's the taxpayer and the bill payer that suffers.
Okay, let's talk about the
Sorry.
It's okay. Let's talk about the migrant crisis, which is spiraling out of control. We're 40% up on last year. The Tories left an absolute mess. You know, Rishi Sunak was stop the boats. This idiot we've got now, Keir Starmer, it's smash the gangs.
It's more like welcome the boats.
Neither of these policies work. So what would you do? What would you do to solve this crisis?
So we have to. They are coming from. We've got to remember they are coming from France. They're not coming from a war-torn country. Why are they leaving France, risking their lives to come to Britain? We are offering them so much more than France does. They get immediate access to legal aid. They get immediate access to benefits. There is so many policies that attract them here. That has to stop immediately. And they have to know that we mean business, that if you come here illegally, there is no route to you ever becoming a citizen, and we will deport you.
Good point. Now, this is a very important issue concerning the migrant crisis right now. It is the fact that more and more young, undocumented men are coming from countries, Muslim countries, countries where women are covered up, where you're not even allowed to see a woman's big toe, let alone anything else. They get here, where, you know, ours is a sexualized culture. Kim Kardashian, OnlyFans, nothing wrong with that. Not, you know, women are entitled to dress however they want in this country. But we've already had at least one documented serious rape by a migrant. That was up in Scotland, an Afghanistan migrant who said, nobody told me about the differences between British culture and Afghanistan culture. We've got more and more young men.
He's lying, because, I mean, in Islam, rape is illegal.
Yeah, no, he's just saying that he didn't understand the differences.
Right.
The point is, Laila, we've got hundreds of thousands of young undocumented men coming into this country, and I'm talking about legal migrants as well as illegal migrants. And there are increasing stories. There's one in Portsmouth right now. That the local authorities, when asylum seekers, young men of military aid, commit these sex crimes, they cover them up. Now, I think that this is a powder keg. If more and more of this happens and the authorities try to cover this up more and more, we're in trouble. Your thoughts?
100%. We must not allow people who don't accept British values have no place in our country. And we protect. So I don't know if you know, but if an illegal immigrant commits a crime, he gets full access to legal aid. That is wrong. They get full access to the public purse. How is that fair? And whereas someone who is a taxpayer and works gets accused of a crime, they have to pay for their own legal fees. So there's a real disconnect there. And I feel that there is an acceptance amongst a certain prideful person who thinks it's acceptable for us to have undocumented migrants. You know, they've been through a difficult time. But I always like to they are coming from France. They're not coming directly from Afghanistan. You know, you've got to understand why they're doing that.
And would you turn the boats around, or would you detain and deport? What would you do about all these?
I mean, I don't know military law, but when people come onto our shores illegally, that's an invasion. And I'd implement the. Sorry, and I'd engage I'd engage and I'd engage the Marines.
Start that again. Sorry. Because you just said you said about that they were, when they came onto our shores undocumented. That's an invasion. Start from there.
Yeah, if someone comes onto our shores undocumented, to me that's an illegal invasion, and so that should give us permission to engage the Navy.
Yeah.
Why not? What is the difference?
And what do we do about, you know, this increasing number of people in asylum seeker hotels?
It's outrageous. Even in Westminster, it's in hotels, and I don't know. You know, Labour said they're going to build new homes for asylum seekers.
Yeah.
They've forgotten. The problem is, and I'll tell you this, Kevin, what really made me switch is that Labour and Conservatives no longer prioritise Britain or British people. And they don't put the country before the party. And that's the problem. And you're seeing it in all these policies. Why should an illegal asylum seeker stay for free in a hotel while a hardworking, you know, I have a resident in my ward who's a bus driver. She's been driving for 20 years. She cried to me, she's like, I haven't been on holiday in so long. I'm so tired. But because she's just above that threshold where she doesn't get any financial help, she's struggling. She says, yet next door there's a family who doesn't speak English and who live completely for free. How is that fair?
It's not fair. Now, Laila, great to talk to you. Sum up what you hope to achieve now that you've joined Reform, the important issues that you hope to tackle.
Well, I hope to tackle mass migration. I hope to tackle the rising crime rate. And I know that Reform is serious about crime and the criminal justice system. But more importantly, I hope to always put Britain first in any policy Reform brings out. And that's the difference between us and the other uniparties.
Well, Laila Cunningham, good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's Laila Cunningham, the latest recruit to Reform UK. She has defected from the Tory party. She's a major councillor in Westminster, the flagship Tory council of this country. We'll keep in touch with her, but I think she's telling a story that more and more Tories are telling. They're sick of defending failure. They're sick of defending the 14 years of disaster as the Tories let this country go to rack and ruin, as the Tories completely ballsed up the migrant crisis. I mean, it's their fault what we're going through now. Labour have made it even worse. That took some doing that, but it's the Tories' fault. That's why they're losing fine people like Laila Cunningham.